Hi, everybody. It's Bob Ost, and it's Friday, and it's March 21st, I think. I get so confused. Um, and this is our 150, no, 255th consecutive community gathering. We're Theater Resources Unlimited. Unlimited. If you are finding us randomly on YouTube or through our podcast, hi, welcome to TRU. In a nutshell, what we do is we basically help uh, artists and producers all understand and navigate the business of theater. Started off really being New York based, and now we kind of help people everywhere. We're now global now that we're virtual. Thank you, COVID. You did one good thing. Today we're going to be talking about something that everybody always asks about. It's like one of the top topics of conversation in the theater scene, which is basically how do I get a crowdsourcing campaign going that actually works? Um, some people have given up on it. I know this. I've watched this happen over the years. People were like really enthusiastic about crowdsourcing, crowdfunding 10 years ago, and then people got discouraged. But the reason they got discouraged is because they didn't have the techniques and the skill and the knowledge that my guest has. I'm going to introduce you to Melissa Center, who has earned the title of crowdsourcing queen or crowdfunding queen. I don't know what is the official title.
The crowdfunding queen, and it's just kind of emerged organically, and I claim it as my own.
Okay, good enough. That's enough to get 38 people in this room today.
Yeah.
So people are definitely here and they're definitely interested. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Before all this, I think you had a life before crowdfunding.
Yeah, so at this work as an actor first and foremost, and my foundation is on stage, but then I started to work in TV film. I'm originally from the Chicago area. I moved to New York straight after graduating Northwestern, and was auditioning a lot for actually musical theater, and also wanted to get in for TV and film projects, but I felt like at that time I was really banging my head against the wall. So the kind of the story goes, I was working with my mentor Win Hanman, the late Win Hanman, on a solo show. Yeah, through the American Place Theater, I was originating one of his pieces for his Literature to Life program. And at that time, I just had something in me that I wanted to create a calling card for myself that was more for screen. So I could try to get into rooms and just, kind of establish my range as an actor and get people to take me seriously and all of that. So I created a web series before it was like a popular thing to do. And I was borrowing equipment and just kind of cobbling something together at first. And then I decided that I wanted to just improve the way I was telling the story. So I launched my very first crowdfunding campaign on Kickstarter. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I was like very determined and and managed to raise $8,000 for my web series, which $8,000 at that time felt like a lot. That was really scary and that felt like a lot of money. But I did it. And through that project, this was the first time that I like really learned how to self-produce. And through that, I was invited to be one of the original Digital Caucus members through the Writers Guild East here. So suddenly, because I was kind of making my own way, I felt very, very validated as both an actor and a creator. And then I was, in rooms and starting to get to know other writers, other producers, and I felt very, very empowered. And it was really exciting and very creative and invigorating to put my own project together. So I got that bug as well. I moved out to LA kind of shortly thereafter. And then I found myself in this like lab setting. A lot of former New Yorkers, people, actors, some writers, some directors, but we were just like really passionate about our craft and serious about what we were doing in the storytelling worlds, like really for the right reason. And we just started to work out together every week. And then projects started to bubble up from this group. First theater, there were a couple of site-specific plays that started to get produced. I did a like two-hander 50 words by Michael Weller in like a on a porch, invite only. It was very magical. we did theater in LA, imagine that. And then I had this desire to make a feature film with these people. I felt, I loved ensemble features, like Anniversary Party. I just when I saw that when I was younger, I was like, I want to be like them when I grow up. And suddenly I was surrounded by really phenomenal actors, and I thought, what if I could put something together where, we all shine? So suddenly I have this concept of a feature film, and I decided, well, I no one's going to give me millions of dollars to make this. I'm like a nobody, but I can make a super scrappy micro budget version of this story that I want to tell. And so suddenly I was like, okay, I have to crowdfund again. And I didn't necessarily want to, but I felt, well, I have to make this project. This is the way forward. And so here we go.
I want to ask you something though.
Yeah.
Here I am. You said micro budget. I thought that the micro budget was relatively new. Are you talking about the SAG-AFTRA specific contract that they use?
At that
That they
time,
allow us to use?
yeah, so at that time there wasn't a contract for it. I say micro budget because it was, we were making a feature film
Oh,
with
okay.
an ensemble cast for like $0.
And that's what they now call it officially. I don't know
Yeah,
if you knew that or not. When you said
yeah,
micro budget, I went, oh, I know that contract.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. So that wasn't yet in place.
so let me go back. I want a little bit of clarification about something. You said that you had this project and you didn't make it. I didn't understand how you connected to, oh, let's crowdsource for this. I didn't know. I didn't for your first raise of eight
Oh,
thousand
great.
dollars.
Yeah. I think it was kind of in the ether, and Kickstarter was a new exciting thing. And I decided, how am I mean, the question really was, I want to buy a camera. I want to get proper editing software. I want to have more tools at my disposal so that I'm not relying on friends to borrow a camera here and there, like really scraping this together. So I needed, several $1,000s. And my next line of thinking was, well, where am I going to get that? Right. And I Kickstarter was kind of in the ether, and I thought, well, I can launch a Kickstarter campaign. And so I did.
Okay, so that wasn't actually for the specific project. It was actually for you to get the technology and the resources that you needed in order to start the project that you wanted to do.
So it was too. So I had already started making this. This is for that web series. So I had already started making this web series, but I was borrowing stuff, and it was very kind of piecemeal. And so I wanted to elevate the way that I was putting it together and just have more control over my time and all of that. So I essentially made a Kickstarter campaign for, maybe I called it season two, of the series. And then, that was successful. And then with that money, I was able to bring on a guest director for one of the episodes, and we did a whole party and we premiered the episode. And she was working on, she was a script supervisor on, I forgot what TV show it was at the time. Good Wife, I think Good Wife. So,
It's so funny you said that. That's the first thing that popped into my head.
oh, really?
That's so weird.
We're tuned in. Um, so yeah, I could expand the way I was doing this and involve more people, and it was just really, really fun. And that was my first stab at it.
Okay, so let's talk about let's take it step at a time because we're gonna get to you raising $1 million, but let's start with the 8,000 because I think a lot of people would be grateful just to be able to raise that.
Yeah.
How did you set up? Let's talk about platforms. What are the platforms that you've worked with? We know Indiegogo, we know Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Have you worked with both of those?
Yeah. So over the course of my personal raising, I've used Kickstarter, Indiegogo, Seed and Spark, and GoFundMe. And then also with my clients now, I tend to direct people more towards Seed and Spark, Kickstarter, and now Cause Match, which is a whole different process. But I launched a documentary with a filmmaker that made a lot of sense to place there. And so we used that for that project.
Okay,
And
so let's talk about your first project, and then let's move into the different platforms and what their strengths are. So,
Mhm.
how did you set up your page? I mean, everybody, all we know is basically you put, amounts that you want to raise, $500, $250, $100, 50, 25. Did you have any special technique that you used? How did you
So
define them? I mean,
So for this, I had no technique. For this
okay.
initial raise, I did not know what I was doing. I'm sure I did research on other common ones or similar price point, and I did the same process for my feature film actually. And that's where I learned I can't do it that way anymore. I need an actual system to be successful. Um, because what I found was modeling my choices after the optically successful campaigns, that's not the work. But at the time, uh, I didn't really know any better. And so I'm sure I made decisions based on, kind of modeling other campaigns. I made a pitch video for my series. I'm sure I included clips from the different characters from the series that I had already cut together from the initial episodes. I put music behind it. I talked to the camera and expressed, what this was, why I was raising the money. I think I watched a version of this maybe last year, and I was like kind of embarrassed. But
But nevertheless, let's talk about let's parse this piece by piece. So
yeah.
one of the things that you would recommend people adding to their page would be a video in which you personally ask people to consider giving and
Oh, yes.
explain why it's important to you.
Yeah, especially these days. And this was years ago, right? So this was all new. And these days, people connect to you through yourself, your face, and a lot of people don't read, so you want to be very mindful with that. But if you're sharing your story and crafting a pitch video for this raise uh, from the heart, and there's certainly like elements that make that more successful, but definitely you need a pitch video.
Do all of the platforms have a place for you to upload a pitch video?
All the ones that I work with do. I'm actually not certain that GoFundMe does. They might have added that recently. I typically don't use GoFundMe for raises. I know you can put images and whatnot, but it's a little bit less video centric. But yeah, the other platforms that are more designated for like storytelling projects do have at the top a place where you would place a pitch video.
Connor's saying GoFundMe
Oh, GoFundMe
has video
added
now.
video. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, they
okay.
used to not really have that, and that wasn't a good idea.
That wasn't a good idea. Okay. There's so much,
Storytellers for creative projects.
so many places. As a person thinking about going to set up a GoFundMe or a crowdfunding page, the first thing that occurs to me as a person from marketing is how do I just put in donate 500, donate 250, donate 100? Do you give any kind of perks, any kind of benefits, any kind of sell pitch on each level of the
Yeah.
ask?
Yeah, so typically for crowdfunding for film projects or theater projects or anything story related albums, um, what that is it's a rewards-based process. So people are pledging at a certain amount, and then in return for that, they'll get a perk or a reward. Um, Maybe half of the people don't really care about that; they just want to support you, and some people really love those perks. So yeah, there is kind of best practices in terms of what levels you'd like to send to set those amounts at in terms of suggested raises, and then best practices in terms of the perks that you're offering in conjunction with those numbers.
Can you suggest some of the best practices to the people in the room?
Yeah, yeah, sure. So I find that people don't care about swag so much, so don't waste money delivering t-shirts that no one is going to wear or care about. Better that the money is spent on your campaign. So be very mindful about physical goods, unless at the higher tiers, it's something that's quite special that maybe is connected to your story that someone who, let's say, contributes $500 would truly appreciate. So I would say try to get very creative with digital offerings, and then think about, what story am I telling through my theater piece or whatever it is that you are raising for? And how can I weave in those themes with the perks? I always look at the perks as another way to tell the story of your ultimate story, and another way to connect people personally to that story. The goal of a crowdfund, of course, is money, but it's truly actually audience building. And so the more choices we can make to help people feel personally connected to the process, to the story, to you, the better.
I want to underscore that. So one of the purposes of crowdfunding is audience building.
Mhm.
I think that's a great idea that maybe not everybody had thought about.
Mhm.
Um, I I know that people have identified what their money will pay for in certain crowdfunding campaigns. Does that kind of thing work? Your money will pay for costumes for five of the actors. Donate $1,000 and we have a set or something like that.
Sure. I think it's really helpful for people to know where their dollars are going in a material way. I think that does two things. It helps people understand like, oh, I'm contributing to this aspect of the whole. And it also breaking that down adds credibility to your raise that it tells your audience, okay, I've thought about where this money is being allocated. I've done my homework. It shows the audience that you aren't just throwing something up willy-nilly.
I once advised, I don't know how well it did, but I once advised somebody, why don't you try something like adopt a character and just like put the list of the characters in the show and say you can pay for this character to come to life. You can pay for that character.
Oh,
So,
cool.
would something like that work? I never asked whether they did it or not.
Sure, that's fun. I mean, you every project and every person has its own uh answers, really. So you have to say, okay, amongst my community, or you have to ask yourself, amongst my community, do I feel like people would really respond to XYZ thing? You really want to think who are the people that I'm going to be inviting into this opportunity, this process, and what would they really appreciate? And some of those decisions would be dictated by that. But yeah, if people like to be heard and seen, right? So if someone's name is associated with a character, or they get to have that, or even a character is named after a backer of a certain amount, because people, that's kind of a cool idea.
So it's a lot of creative stuff. You
Mhm.
have to be creative. Do you think that somebody without an ounce of creativity could just go on create a crowdsourcing page and just say donate at this level, at every one level, and have a maybe a moving video of them asking people for donations? Would that be effective, or do you need more? I would think it's very competitive.
I think it's a matter of how much are you trying to raise, and any any creative touch, I think, is going to inspire your community to give more, right? So you can maybe get baseline contributions, maybe with a very, very basic approach. But I find that when you take the extra time to make something clever, to build out the campaign in your voice, in the voice of the project that you're trying to raise money for, people really they feel connected to what you're trying to do. And oftentimes then they're more generous with you.
I'm so glad you said that because that's where my instinct goes. I haven't really been very I haven't actively been advising people. People ask me about crowdfunding, and I'll probably refer them to you from now on. So,
Right.
um, so uh, can you give us an idea of some of the campaigns that you've done and how some of those have been creatively thought through and presented?
Yeah. Yeah. So the first thing that comes to mind that I feel like it makes sense for all of us, and I just got an email today that their video of the show is finally done. So there was a campaign that I coached a year or so ago called My True Love, is a kind of fairy tale musical that ended up off Broadway. They ran it on Seed and Spark. They did a beautiful, beautiful job with all of the marketing for the campaign, every element involved. It was very successful. I think they raised over 50,000. Let me pull it up. Uh, I forget
Do you want
sometimes.
me to give you a screen share? Do you want us to share anything?
Oh, I can share it. Let's see. Um,
I can, let's see.
New window. I don't want you to see my 8,000 tabs that I have open, so I have to open a clean. a clean window. So here's an example of, um, okay, are you all able to see this?
Yes.
Yeah. So they just delivered, one of the perks was that the people who contributed would get the video of the show. So they just delivered that, and I went to go see the show. It was so delightful, so delightful. What I loved about what they did is all the images, all of the graphics have the tone and the feel and the energy and the essence of this play. And I think that's very important. Do you see how visual that is? It's easier for people to read. Sometimes when there's too much text on the page, people just blur. And so they did a wonderful job of bringing a lot of life. And even the headers, right? A fairy tale about consent. Yes, that has, the tone of what they were creating here. Very, very clever, very, very creative. Uh, the cast members here, you can see credits that they've all participated in, so it adds a bit of legitimacy to the whole team. Um, they you know, why contribute, always helpful for people to understand, the meaning, the more why we can incorporate in terms of why the story, why contribute to get people to understand the emotional impact of this whole adventure, the better. And here's an example, right, of their version of how the funds will be allocated. They had, some was going to the salaries, the equipment, and they didn't put numbers on here, but they broke it down visually. Usually I'll say percentages are helpful, but this is what they did. Um, and then here they have, visual perks. Um, this isn't always necessary, but the nitty gritty and stuff I get into with clients, but just as an overview.
Oh, I want to ask you what
Yeah.
is Bernadette Peters at $500? You get to have a date with Bernadette Peters for $500?
They so they named it the Bernadette Peters, or the 500, the Bernadette T. So they were going, that means that they could, whoever receives that would get 2 tickets to the opening night performance and a party afterwards. I don't know why they named it specifically the Bernadette Peters. They were just fangirling. I think if I recall correctly, there was a theme of, because the witch into the woods, right? This is a whole my fairy tale theme. There was kind of a nod to Bernadette Peters in the show, so they incorporated that
Okay.
in their in their perk ideas. Um,
I'll pay $500 for Bernadette Peters.
Yeah. So they did a beautiful job. And then, I mean, I could show you the whole Facebook page and some of or if you have time after the fact, you can visit their Facebook page and scroll and see some of the graphics that they made to move the campaign along. That was also, the actual campaigning is its own art form too, and you want to help people understand where you are in the process, and do so visually. So they did a beautiful job with their marketing as well, because they hired me.
Okay, so that's a good example of how creative you can get with a crowdfunding page. Um, do you have another contrasting example, or should we just move to what are the strengths of the different platforms?
If you want, I'm happy to pull up a contrasting example, something a
Yeah,
little bit more.
yeah, because
Um,
a lot of people I'm sure are sitting out there go, oh, I don't have a designer who can do all that.
let's see. Let me just pull up. Give me 2 seconds to find what I was looking for. Um,
Oh, Lee, when you said, can she give some specific examples? Is am I answering your question now? Is that what you meant?
Yeah, the more specific, the better for such as myself who don't understand generalized concepts.
Okay. Okay. So I didn't I
More
didn't
like
see
this.
I didn't see your question, but I see that I went there anyway. So we're looking for another one.
yeah.
Here we go.
So here is a slightly less out there campaign. This was Moitri's. She raised $30,000 for a short film called By Design. This is a queer story, and it's a little bit of a simpler aesthetic, but I think what her and her partner really were very, very conscientious about every element of communication, and they wanted everything to really be super cohesive. And so they did a really beautiful job. Uh,
I forgot to take note on the other one. Did the other one also have a video?
yes, they all have a pitch video at the top.
Okay. Okay. Pitch videos. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's something that we all need to remember. A pitch video is
Yeah.
important.
So, here, for example, the story, this is the log line for her film, and that's done visually, right? So it's kind of easier for people to kind of grasp right away versus, sometimes with this text here, it's easy to ignore. And then, yeah, we went into stretch goals here. So that was
Explain
right
what a
up.
stretch goal is.
A stretch goal means you raised your original goal. And so their target goal was $25,000. They raised that so it's a 30-day campaign in total is what I recommend. No more, no more. And then by week 2, they had reached their goal. And so then we were aiming for stretch goals. So then it's additional pushes, and they ended up raising over $30,000 for their project. So that was just communicated up top here so that the audience, if let's say you raised your goal, when you come into and visit the page, you see that there's still more that can be accomplished, right? If we have higher tiers of asks. But this is a slightly simpler page. We have about the headers. In the headers, she did include the feel that she wants from the film itself.
This is much more relaxing than the other one.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
for the record.
Yeah. Yeah, but it matches the ultimate
The
story,
tone.
right?
Yeah.
So it's really good to see what you can do. Yeah, these pictures, they're all the same kind of color palette, right? This is it plants a seed in the audience of, oh, I understand the vision that you're after. So it's very cohesive and all aligned. Again, we have a why contribute. Here, her budget is percentage wise, right? All allocated. We have her team here. And then kind of their call to action at the bottom. And then same, all these perks are alongside here.
So were both of the ones that you showed us, were they both Seed and Spark?
Yes, those were both
Okay.
Seed and Spark. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so can we take a moment to talk about the different platforms and why one is better than another for a certain project?
Yeah. So the different platforms have different models. And sometimes it is a matter of your own risk tolerance. So Kickstarter, for example, you have to raise your entire budget in order to keep your funds. So if I launch a campaign for $20,000, if I don't hit $20,000 in pledges, I get nothing, right? So some people that's like, whoa, that's way too scary. I will be paralyzed and I cannot handle that. No, thank you. Some people, they're like, ooh, there's some heat there. I better work for this, right? And so it really activates people in a profound way, and that could pay off a lot. Also for the audience, it helps them rally around you if there's something to gain or lose, right? If they know, ooh, all they need is $2,000 more and they're going to reach their goal, people will really rally to be like, we're going to help you make that thing. That's Kickstarter.
Let me jump in for 1 second and just emphasize the one thing we should have said at the start. It takes work. If you're going to commit to doing this, you have to realize you're committing to a lot of time and a lot of energy, a lot of effort. It just doesn't happen. Because
Correct.
another thing we're going to talk about in a moment is how do you drive people to your page. But let's go back to the different platforms. Oh,
We actually have a quick question from Candy.
yeah, I know, I see it. Okay.
Are
So
givers more likely to want to support a project that is not for profit in order to get a tax deduction?
there's a different question that I would ask. The question is, which of the platforms offer the option of, of a 501c3 tax deductible donation? Because not all of them do,
Great.
unless it's changed since last year.
So most platforms you can kind of merge that. So if you had a nonprofit, you can hook it up with like a Seed and Spark or Kickstarter. What I'll say though is uh, it's 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 a case by case scenario depending on truly who the people are in your sphere. If you're going to be attracting a lot of larger contributions, it could benefit those backers. But in general, with crowdfunding for storytelling projects, the average contribution is going to be 50, 75, $100, right? And when someone gives $50, they don't do so because they need a tax write-off. And so you just want to be mindful of if you have a fiscal sponsor, for example, they're going to take a deduction of every single contribution that comes in. So if you do your cost benefit analysis, does it make sense to have that for the one backer who was going to need it, right? Um, Even in my experience, the people who have given me, let's say, $5,000 to be a high tier backer of my project, one person asked for nothing in return. They're supportive of artists and they wanted to see me succeed and saw how I operate and believed in me. And the other one was excited to have his name on the project and show up to the red carpet and be the executive producer of the film. It wasn't necessarily because they got a tax write-off. So just keep that in mind. Does that fully answer that question? Oh, I think the other line of thinking around that too is a lot of us are afraid that it's a transactional exercise, right? That why is someone going to give to me? They're only going to give to me if they kind of get something in return. And my experience is not that actually, that especially with arts-based asks, storytelling-based asks, people are saying yes to be your patron more so than they're saying yes because they like need whatever in return.
Well, I think the credit is also something that people should really think about, giving people a producer credit. I mean, everybody that I know is doing, well, not everybody, but most of the ones that I'm aware of that are doing this are often offering producer credit or executive producer or co-producer at different
Yeah,
levels.
at the kind of highest tiers, that's usually what I
Yeah,
recommend. Yeah.
right. It's usually $1,000 or $5,000 up there.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so the question still is in my head. Which do you know which platforms actually have 501c3 have tax deductible capability? I guess the answer
Uh,
to this really is explore the different ones and find out
yeah.
who does
Yeah.
what you need.
So the platforms, they don't have that baked in, except for Cause Match with my clients get that baked in. But the other platforms just exist. Some people have a fiscal sponsor already that they're very inclined to use, in which case you have to hook up the accounts on the back end. And you can weave it in. I know, for example, with Seed and Spark, that was a thing that and Indiegogo actually, they have those capabilities to merge on the back end, but it's not necessarily something, it depends. I sometimes recommend, sometimes don't.
What is the model that most of them use? Do they take a percentage of your donation, or is there a fee, or how does
So
that
all the
work?
platforms have a different fee structure. So Kickstarter is a 5% platform fee and then about 3% credit card processing fee. It's like 2.8 or something like that. 3% credit card processing fee. So you want to bake that into your goal amount.
2.8 plus 30 cents.
That's right. So, Seed and Spark, the model there is once you hit 80% of your goal, then you will be greenlit and keep your funds. So it's not quite as aggressive as the Kickstarter All or Nothing, but it creates some sort of sense of risk. Their fee structure is the 2.8 plus the
30
that
cents.
that And they used to charge a 5% platform fee, but now they offset that. So for the storytellers. So people, when they pledge, have an option to add a tip to the contribution. All those tips are collected amongst all the campaigns and put into a pool, and that money then essentially accounts for the platform fee for all of the artists. Okay. Then Indiegogo, their model is it used to be whatever you raise, you keep. So some people are like, that's great. If I don't reach my goal, I want to have the money. Well, there's pros and cons to that psychology. But there's that. And they recently experimented with if you wanted to create more of a risk factor, I think you can run a campaign like that. This is a newer thing that they were offering as an option. And their fee structure is as similar as Kickstarter, right? Where it's like 5% platform fee and then that same credit card processing fee. Go Butter as a fundraising platform, Valerie. I do know this. I think those platforms are best for nonprofit organizational giving more so than what we're talking about.
That's how I know it. So we're exploring it now for TRU. So let's see. We covered. Let's stop for a moment, and I want to ask the room. Do you have any other questions that would relate to what the differences are between the different platforms? Does anybody have a question about that?
Yeah, I'm still a little unclear on what the different platforms offer.
So you talked about the fee structures for the different platforms. How about in terms of their strengths or their
So again,
well,
it's the model of how you want to raise the money. They're all essentially a avenue for you to put all your story on, and an avenue to collect funds. Okay. The what benefits one or the other is, well, you have to understand how much money you're giving away to use it, right? That's one thing. You have to understand the model of fundraising. So on Kickstarter, for example, you have to know that if you're going to raise there, you have to get 100% of your goal pledged in order for those funds to go into your bank account. Otherwise, you get nothing. For Seed and Spark, when people pledge, you have to hit 80% of your goal in pledges. And once you do, you know that those funds you can keep. And then Indiegogo, the model is different, right? Whatever money comes in, you keep. But there's some challenges to that because sometimes it's harder for backers to get in right away if they're not certain you're going to reach your goal. So they're maybe not going to be as generous, and it's easier for you to let yourself off the hook if you have nothing risky to kind of gain or lose at the end of the day.
I think I might be wrong, but I think some people are probably wondering in terms of the environment itself, whether are there platforms that have an environment that is more likely to attract people who are donating to the arts and to theater.
Okay, great. So not necessarily. I think there's a misconception that the platform itself is going to drive contributions, and that is false. So what drives contributions to your campaign is you and the marketing work that you do to drive your audience and your community to whatever platform you choose. There are some sort of benefits that the platforms try to do. I think that is more to attract people to that platform in terms of us, right? The people who put the campaigns on there. For filmmakers, Seed and Spark does offer a lot of education, and they do have kind of a grant program where they have a small handful of successful filmmakers who will place, I don't know if it's maybe $1,000 into certain types of campaigns. So that's cool. But other than that, it's not the platform that's going to dictate your success. It's your work.
There was a time where, I mean, I'm talking about a time ago, I read about how certain platforms had developed followings that were more quirky and some that had things that were more traditional. So you're saying that basically the playing field is evened over the years and everybody
Yeah,
offers everything?
yeah. It used to be because when crowdfunding was new, Indiegogo was for films, right? Now the people still raise films on there for films on there, but they've tried to prioritize tech and innovation. And the reason they're doing that is because that brings in a whole lot more money than film projects or right.
Okay, bingo. You just hit what I was hoping you
Yeah.
deal with. Yes. Go, keep going. Keep going.
Yeah. So Kickstarter has all sorts of different projects. People who are trying to raise documentaries tended to go on Kickstarter for whatever reason. Great. Seed and Spark. Seed and Spark is very storytelling centric. So there's no product, there's none of that. It's just films originally. Now I launched my solo show on there, theater projects, and I launched a music album on there as well. So yeah, I would say story-based projects can go on any of them. What the decision comes down to is what your comfort level with the model. And then yeah, GoFundMe is, the majority of GoFundMe campaigns are charity cases, right? People needing for charity. I have seen successful storytelling campaigns on GoFundMe. I'm not saying that that's not possible. Connor, go for it. Like, if you feel very comfortable with GoFundMe, then by all means. But typically, I do tend to place campaigns elsewhere. I also think it's important, just from a mindset perspective, for all of us to understand these aren't charities, right? We are providing value with the stories that we're telling. So it's not yeah, we're not charity cases. So make sure that you're coming at this from a place of like empowerment, and that you have something to share and offer the world. And then in return, people will glom onto that.
At this
Uh,
point, I think we have no lack of questions from the room, but I do want to address one question before we go to all of the other questions, which is, how do you drive people to your campaign?
yeah,
And that also will relate to what somebody else is saying, is why is this better than just going up to somebody individually and trying to raise money? Cornelia, one of my answers to you is that because a lot of people aren't comfortable doing that.
yeah,
People aren't good at asking for money. So this is basically a way that they can get around that weakness that they have,
yeah.
that inability that they have. There's no person-to-person interaction, so you don't have somebody saying no to your face. So I think there's a lot of reasons why people would be more comfortable with the crowdfunding.
Yeah, I think what it does is you're also funneling people into an event, right? So if you can raise money over the course of time, person to person, whatever, but it's gonna take a year. This is a way to say start, finish. I have a sense of urgency, right? I have 30 days and then I'm done. And then people will rally to support you. So that's the beauty of a crowdfunding campaign. People are so busy, distracted. They need a reason. They need a sense of something to gain or lose, and they'll support you. So that's one thing. I lost the original question that you asked. There was one thing I also wanted to address that I saw above here with 100,000 over $100,000 campaigns. Those are statistically very, very, very difficult for storytellers. Again, because an average contribution is going to be like $50 or $100, you do the backwards math. How many contributions do I need times 100 to get to a $100,000 campaign? It's doable. It just requires a very large team of people who are all rallying around you to make this thing happen. Which leads me to, how do you drive people to the page? And it's a combination of factors. It's a combination of an email cadence, right? Understanding how to reach out to your community in such a way so that you're not spamming them, right? You're crafting an invitation and helping them understand what it is you're doing from an emotional standpoint. You're speaking directly to them, but via email. So there's a email cadence over the course of a campaign, in combination with social media help. That's like a visual proof that this thing's up and running and it gets people excited. So that when you ask them, and that's the operative thing, right? You can't just blast on social media and people are going to take action. No. you blast on social media. So then when you make the ask, people are like, oh, I've seen that, or like, oh, that's going so well, and then want to support you. So people do that via, yeah, emails, direct messages, all sorts of, whether that's Facebook message or IG or text message. It's going to be a combination of email marketing, direct outreach, picking up the phone. And there's a helpful and good way to do that, so that elicits the response that you want.
So I guess there's no lack of questions. Owen, do you want to start going through them?
Yeah, sure. First question's from Lee. How do you collect/keep the money without liability?
Uh, Liability,
Tax liability?
what kind of liability? Can you be more specific?
Well,
It- it-
if you, I guess you've explained it. If you don't reach your goal, it goes back to the donors. Like I was worried if I collect, not enough and I can't do the project, I don't want to be, you know, in hock to those people or in debt to those people without.
Right. So part of that is baked into those platforms. And that's partly why it can be a little challenging with Indiegogo, right? If you don't raise your money, then that's a little tricky. So you have to make sure that you really have a well-crafted plan to do that and be like ethical. Um, so I think this is the conversation that you're asking. But yeah, the platforms, you're going to hook a bank account to the platform, the back end. So once funded, they'll process everything, and then the funds will be delivered into your bank account. Tax wise, if you're raising, especially in the same year and producing in the same year, all of those funds you'll do a line item, report of
Basically,
how.
it's expenses. Basically, what you're doing, you are liable for any money that you raise, whether you're doing it on Indiegogo or if you're doing it personally. But then your accountant helps you dig out of that. Basically, all the money in is evened out because it's of the money that you spend for the project.
That's correct.
So, so you don't have to worry about doing it. You just have to worry about having an accountant.
Yeah.
So, um, let's see what else.
Next question's from Linda Waxman-Finkel. She's asking, do the platforms individually offer a variety of templates to start, and then do they also give advice on how to market?
Not usually. You have a blank page, and you have to upload and create and upload your own templates, if you want to tell the story in a visual way. Uh, they have on their site some best practices. I think if you poke around Kickstarter, Seed and Spark has a lot of education. They each have blogs and things that they'll run.
I have to say, it looked like the two campaigns you showed us from Seed and Spark seemed to be templated very similarly. So
Yeah,
there must be a base. There must be a basic
well,
something.
so partly how I work with clients is I share best practices,
Oh,
and
okay. It's
yeah,
you. It's you. That's what it
yeah,
is.
yeah. And then people will, make it their own, right? But I show, okay, here's a good way to tell a story, and now you go run with it. Just like Canva can be your best friend.
You don't use Canva. Uh, next,
Cornelia brings up the fact that apparently most successful crowdfunding campaigns get the majority of their funding from the creator's existing network, friends, families, colleagues, email lists, and social followers. Maybe only about 25% come from strangers. So why use the platforms at all, and instead go straight to the donors?
Well, again, a few things, right? It funnels people into a moment. It helps rally around an excitement around this thing. It turns it into an event. Then it's public facing, and then people can be like, wow, you did this thing, right? So in the process of that, oftentimes other opportunities arise, other cool things emerge that will help either your project along or your career along. And so there's benefit in doing that and being visible. And again, that kind of sense of urgency, right? It helps people really show up for you in a generous way. if you have 10 rich relatives that can each give you $10,000 that you know right now, then make those calls and just get that money, right? But most people don't, and so this is a way to democratize the process and really, again, really help you create a basis of fans for yourself, for your work, for the thing. I'll say when I launched my campaign for my solo show, um, you do a play and sometimes it's a half full house or whatever that is. Um, this my Mine is a little bit of a long story because of COVID, but I ended up having like several hundred people come to my the debut performance. Multiple hundreds of people come to this debut performance because of the crowdfunding campaign, right? Plus, I ended up having more tickets sold for artist relief, and I wouldn't have reached that amount of people had it not been for this.
The only thing I'd like to jump in and say to Cornelia and everyone is that there are always choices in anything you do in life.
Absolutely.
It's just basically you choose what you're comfortable with. I can very easily understand why a lot of people would be much more comfortable doing a fundraising, a crowdsourcing or fundraising on a platform rather than having to reach out to the people individually. I mean, you're still reaching out to them, but at least you're saying go to this web page and you know, if you'd like to help me. So at least you have to ask that far to get them to go to your page. The other thing I was wondering about some of the platforms, I wonder, do they have? Because I don't use them. I'm sorry. You know I don't know that much about it. Do they have a landing page for these where they actually feature some of the campaigns that are running? And
Yeah, so
is that a bonus thing that you can do that you can spend a little more for?
they will usually feature each platform will usually feature campaigns that they're excited by. If they're doing well, you'll eventually be featured on that page. I truly don't think that drives contributions on the actual platform, but what it does is it offers you a bit of marketing, so then you can go back to your audience and be like, "Oh, cool! Look, we're a project to watch," right? And then people are like, "Wow, that's awesome! Kickstarter gave you a thumbs up, or Seed and Spark, or whatever platform it is like highlighting you." So it's just a nudge for you to say like, "Hey, audience." We're featured.
I basically the thing that I compare it to for myself is when we do YouTube, we everything goes on YouTube that I do. I more often than not, I will promote some of the YouTube videos, and those YouTube videos suddenly where I get 160 or 100 people watching the video, I get 6,000, I get 8,000 people. So it 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 does make a difference when people see something and go, oh, let me click and see if I'm interested in that. So I'm thinking that what you're saying, I agree to an extent, but I think that if there's a landing page these are the hot things that we're promoting on our platform. Some people I think may be interested enough and go, oh wait, this is a play that's happening in New York. I could put money into that, and they might click on it. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility.
It's definitely not out of the realm of possibility. I'll say that um, the percentage of people who kind of happen upon a campaign and contribute, it's just a small fraction.
Yeah.
And we don't depend on that when we're putting in the building blocks for the campaign. But if that happens along the way, then awesome, right? Like whatever we can do to add to expand who sees it, fantastic.
Um, First of all, if we haven't answered questions that have been asked to your satisfaction, do let us know. And Owen, are there more
Yeah, oh yeah,
questions
we
that
have
are
a ton more.
okay?
Cornelia Rabinall wants to know about perk fulfillment. She says that she knows people that have struggled a lot with doing that. And I think the question was, how many hours a week would you say um, that you have to dedicate to upkeep and that I'm trying to find the thing, but yeah.
Well, for perk fulfillment, I would suggest you take stock of what you have the energy and capability to deliver and only deliver upon what you feel like you can deliver upon. That's why the digital things can be helpful. I would try to personalize as much as possible because people are giving you funds and they're a part of your community now, and so you want to take care of them too. So keep that in mind. I would also say that once the project is complete, you don't have to deliver the perks the next day, right? People understand. So you can pace out the delivery of those perks. Ben, the My True Love creator, is just delivering me the video today. And the show premiered a long ass time ago. So it's totally fine. People just want to support you.
But
As
isn't he just sending you a link to the online video, or is he sending you an actual hard copy video?
no, a link, a digital link.
Oh, yeah, because basically I would say anything you have to mail, don't do.
Yeah,
Anything,
yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
don't do it because it's a waste of the resources.
Yeah, forget the t-shirts.
Yeah. Yeah. The only reason why I would say that you might consider is, let's say you're making some project and the actual item is so intrinsic to your marketing plan ultimately that you're trying to create a buzz, and this item is the key to that, for like more long-term purposes, then you could consider, but otherwise don't.
I just had a flash, and I would create pins that say I made this happen.
Oh, cool.
And send. I mean, that's the only hard thing I would say
Yeah.
wear this to opening night.
Yeah, great. That's cute.
I found the question. It's from Valerie David. For a month-long campaign, how many hours would you say you will need to invest for that month, either hours per week or on the whole?
So if you're the campaign leader, the actual month-long campaign is like a full-time job, I would say. Particularly the first and the second week, and then the last week. The middle tends to plateau anyway, so it's more about maintenance. If depending on how much money you are raising, you will need a team around you to also be doing these asks. And if they're not the team leader, if they're working alongside you to do outreach and whatnot, it's probably like an hour a day of work during the week, is what I typically estimate. Um,
So here's the thing. I've got you for one more minute. Can you take how many? Can you take any more questions?
so I gotta go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can we follow up with you and maybe send you some of these questions? Owen, can you collect questions that weren't answered, and maybe we can answer them by in an email on Monday or Tuesday.
Sure, I can. Yeah, I'll do what I can do.
I'm also,
Okay.
yeah, I don't know if this is appropriate. You let me know, but I have, if anyone has a project that they are like wanting support on or wanting to consider support on, I have a link that you could sign up for a consult with me and we can discuss. And I offer that, that initial consult like free of no charge. We can discuss some of what's going on. I'm happy to pop that into the chat if that's appropriate. If not, I'll just,
Absolutely, absolutely.
so
It's a
so
godsend. It's appropriate and a godsend.
yeah. So I'll put that here. And I added just a TRU link. So I know that you're coming to me through TRU because should we work together, then I would offer a special rate for you. So
Well, my goodness, we have a lot more comments. Thank
oh,
you so much.
by accident put it on Kate's. I have to do it to everybody. How do I do that?
Oh, instead where it says two, you have to click until you find
Meeting.
send
Oh, here we go.
meeting
There we
group
go.
chat.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Am I okay to
You can
exit?
you are excused, and thank
Okay.
you so much
Thank
for being
you
with
so
us.
much for coming, and this was really fun. And I look forward to chatting with you all after the fact.
And those of you in YouTube land who happen to be watching us, and also people in the room now, you can also maybe reach out to Melissa. Just email me at trunltd@aol.com. I want to thank the community. We had a really nice turnout today of like over 40 people. Um, sometimes I just can't believe it. We're heading towards our fifth anniversary. April 17th will be 5 years that we've been doing this. And I can't believe that I've had all these people who come in there and spend time with me and my guests every week. So appreciate that very much. Um, I'll be having these every week for the next who knows how many years. I keep doing it because I enjoy doing it. So if you want to be part of this and be in the room possibly, and ask questions, then email me at trunltd@aol.com. That's trunltd@aol.com. We've been doing this as a community service since shutdown. I still consider it a community service, but now that we're out of shutdown, we have more expenses. So if you can pay something to come join us, that would be great. If you can join as a member, that would be terrific. You can donate to us at trudonate.com, trudonate.com, and you can become a member. Um, Go to our website at TRUNLT, no, True Online, TRUonline.org, and check out all the other things that we do, and join us and be with us. That's it. See you in the weeks to come, I'm hoping. And thank you to the room, and thank you to the people out there who have just found us. Thank you for finding us. We wanted to be found. Bye.